And the lads are back. The Punt Team 24 season is underway. We're getting the shows rolling. This is our second attempt at this, as you'll all be happy to hear that we got in the studio, we filmed a fantastic show, and then it turned out we had some technical difficulties that we couldn't get around. So we're on the stream, we're at it, round two. But lads, I'll start off. Nice to have you back, and how are you both doing?
Yeah, it's good. Good to be back. Good to be back amongst it. Pre-season action's underway. Unfortunately, injuries are happening week in, week out as well. But yeah, good to be back. Good to be back chatting fantasy and ready to go for the new season.
Yeah, very excited. Obviously, draft orders set in the punt, so it's good to see that. Obviously, we're well into hard knocks and everything what builds up to the new season. It goes flat for a few months, and just seeing all the news coming out everywhere now, like Bish had the injuries, and looking at ahead to fantasy, it's exciting. I'm looking forward to no one asking me to do it on a Sunday again because the NFL's on.
We thought the first show we're going to do of the year is we're calling it Fantasy 101. Obviously, for newbie, we built up a bit of a viewer base last year. All our friends who were interested in watching asking the basics of it. So it's very different, a bit complicated for new people coming into CNFL. So we thought we were going to do a show, completely cover everything that you'd need to know with the lads, and you can join along, hopefully create your own leagues from this, get your mates together and join in on all the fun of the shows and the betting and the fantasy that we do throughout the season. So, Bish, I'll let you get into it, but you're going to explain the leagues and how it all works. So, yeah, take us away.
Yeah, generally there's three main leagues. You've got your redraft league, which is every year you redraft whole entire team every single season. You've got a keeper league, which is generally you keep 2 to 6 players per year, and then you redraft everyone else. Your full management is called a dynasty league, which is you keep your team from the initial draft, you keep it ongoing for years and years, and then you only redraft the rookies that come in each year. So there you sort of three standard. There's also best ball thrown in there as well, which is quite a new thing. You have a squad and just your best performers, you get their score. For us, we concentrate on the redraft. It's fun. Like you said, every year you redraft your whole entire squad. Your draft order can be based on where you finished last year, the previous, or it can be restarted totally, which is what we've done as we've got new members coming in. I personally like the dynasty. I like the building and the project, but it's good to throw in the redraft where if you get unlucky one season with injuries and stuff like that, you can just start from scratch each year and try and build that winning team.
I like it, Bish. How the draft works for the redraft, since that's what you're going to be following along with us doing, is that it's different from, as I said in the last show, it's different from soccer. Apologies for the English fans, just to differentiate. But in the NFL draft, you'll all go into the fantasy and you all have one player per team. So I can't have the same player as Bish, obviously, and Tag can't have the same player as me. You get a player, you're following along with that player. That makes it different from soccer fantasy games where by the end of the season, most people have similar teams and it's based on your draft day. When you set up your league, you'll pick a draft day for you all to sit down and pick individual players. That is probably the most important day of your season, of your life, depending on how much you love playing fantasy. For me, it's up there with my biggest day of the year. Everything's off, a few beers in hand, and I'm locking in and making sure I pick my best team. Last year, I did it on a train with my missus. I got my plans all screwed up, and I ended up having a tough year. So I've learned my lesson. And that was in my other league. Obviously, you watched the live draft of the league we did last year, but in my other league, I did that, learnt my lesson. It's all in now, research done. But Tag, take us through the basics of, I think we can start off with the draft day. I think that, as I said, that's probably the biggest thing for me, and describing it to people I know is how the draft works. Take us through it.
Yes, everyone who's new to NFL, especially in the UK, and that's obviously what we're covering. I think it's getting bigger and bigger in the UK every year. We see it, the following, and more people asking me about fantasy. A couple of my former teammates, one of them's in now, was trying to explain it to them last year. So for the draft, obviously, there's 12 in our league, and someone obviously picks first, it rolls down right through to the 12. But then obviously to make it fair, you normally do the snake format like we do. So whoever has last pick gets to pick again straight away, and it snakes round back and forward. So if your first pick overall, you are actually going to be probably back picking till pick 23, and then you get 23, 24. So it's a real fair way of doing it. And straight away, my advice is if you're new to it, just try and make it as fun as you can. It's going to be tough for you to win your first draft, your first fantasy you're ever involved in. You're going to be competing against some veteran type players like me, Bish, and you're getting there slowly, Joe. So just make it fun. When I first got into it, going back a few years now, I picked one or two players who were in my team so I could cheer on even more. I stayed away from a few players in teams I hate, like the Raiders and the Patriots. Never used to take Tom Brady, no thank you. Don't want to be cheering for Brady. But also it makes it fun for the neutral games. They're big neutral games where you can actually take a bit of a side or cheer on the player a bit more, and then exciting players. So, yeah, you want to win the draft, but let's just have some fun, learn the rules the first year or two, get behind some players that excite you and some teams that excite you. It makes it really interesting.
Bish, do you want to take us through from that then? The next stage would be how the draft works, I guess how the point system works towards the players, and takes through some of the technical side of it.
Yeah, so that's one key thing is understanding the rules of your league. Each league is slightly different. So generally, you've got a standard league, which is, as it says, it's a blank standard. But on that, you could have what's called a half PPR league. PPR stands for points per reception. So every catch that a player makes, they'll get an extra point, or in our case, half a point. Then you've got your PPR, which is a full point. You also then have some getting advanced tight end premiums, where tight ends get extra points for catches and receptions, just because it's a bit of a scarce position. So there's lots of different things that you can add. And once you are confident and you've got a league going, within your league, you can vote to tweak things year on year, which I think is great because you can just customize it to how you guys want it to be. But yeah, just focusing on that. So generally, quarterbacks, that's the big one to look at. Do they get 4 points for a touchdown? Do they get 6 points for a touchdown? There's quarterbacks in the league that are mobile and run a lot. If you've got one of these quarterbacks and you score 6 points for a touchdown, it gives you an added benefit if they can use their legs and score touchdowns rather than just throwing it to get touchdowns. So that sort of brings in an elite degree of mobile quarterbacks. I think that's it, unless I've missed anything, boys.
So I was going to say, so the big one would be obviously, just the lineup. I'm in a redraft, which is a 2 QB starter. So automatically thinking they're pretty scarce. You need to take a QB first round, more than likely. But in most cases, like the punt, 1 QB, that's normally the best way to win. You don't have to rush into that. You're normally going to be starting between 2 and 3 wide receivers or running backs. So obviously it's prime to get some of them on the board. So just make sure you know your lineup, know obviously what you need to get, because a lot of people start in the draft first time around if they've never done it before. When it's only starting 1 QB, they'll think, oh, get Patrick Mahomes, or Lamar Jackson, the best players in the world. But realistically, you don't want to be taking a QB in your first round, because them top draw wide receivers, running backs will score heavy, and you need to have a few in the team starting. They're normally the ones you should be going for.
Yeah, I guess one of you, whichever wants to take it, I think from that, after describing them first 2 rounds, what are you looking to draft based on your history? I'd say there's 2 categories of players. I don't know whether you're both the same. I think you're quite similar, but there's normally 2 categories of players. There's a wide receiver, a double wide receiver pick in the first 2 rounds. I guess there's 3 categories. You either pick 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, or you play half and half, and obviously you pick a wide receiver and running back. Do one of you want to cover why you pick a wide receiver and running back in the first couple of rounds, and maybe, like I said, not a tight end or a quarterback, as Tag went into a bit there? What are you looking for from your first couple of picks that probably can make or break someone's draft who are drafting for the first time?
Yeah, for me, I think coming back on what you said there, draft value is very important. So we've just spoke about their running backs and wide receivers. There's different strategies you can do out there if you research zero running back strategy, where you go hard on wide receivers and load up and then pick up running backs further down the line. But for me, I like to solidify myself with a solid wide receiver to start with. We've spoke about previously, the league is becoming more and more pass friendly. People want to see points. It's very hard for defenders to keep up with wide receivers at the minute. They can't touch, otherwise it's a flag, it's a penalty. For me, I'm very big on a wide receiver first. Within reason, again, it depends. There's so many things, variables, but depending on where you're picking from 1 to 12, pick one is more than likely going to be CMC, the best running back in the game at the minute. But I like a wide receiver. And then, the only thing that's probably a positive for me is, or a definite for me, is a quarterback will be picked early for me. I like the value of trying to nail a wide receiver and a running back early.
Tag, what's your thoughts?
Again, mine will lean towards a league with the punt and the half-point PPR. That sort of leans me potentially towards a wide receiver for them extra points to get. In my head, I'm always normally going into it, giving away my secrets. I'm a bit different to Bish. I normally will always take the best running back on the board in the first round, because I think with the running back, the top level running backs and the big score running backs, I feel like are a bit more scarce than the wide receivers, and they're a bit more guaranteed solid bank, and they're not relying on their QB to get them points either if the QB goes down. For instance, obviously, we're a bit wary with Justin Jefferson maybe at the minute. Obviously, I know Sam Darnold has already lost his QB, and he's not got Kirk Cousins anymore. A top running back, the QB goes, the potential's still there. It's a bit of a 50-51 for me, but because it is only half a point PPR in our league, and we are starting 2 running backs, I think I'm pick 4 this year. I'd be shocked if I don't take the best running back on the board. That's the way I'd go.
So people who are watching in the draft, you know where Tag's going. Maybe steal, I don't know. I'll not ruin it. I'd say the next one, lads, from there would be, I'd love to cover Red Zone. I think you sell fantasy NFL by talking about Red Zone and how good it is when you've got your fantasy team loaded up. The websites are always very up to date, and then you've got Red Zone on TV. I know, Tag, you're a massive fan. I don't think you miss a Sunday evening. Take us through how Red Zone links with fantasy and just how it makes the sport so amazing.
Yeah, Red Zone is, for me, the best show on TV. Anyone who's not really used to it, I'd say it's like a live match of the day feel, or like, do you like Soccer Saturday if you're used to your soccer? But you're actually seeing them games rather than just going to the person talking about the game on a Saturday afternoon while soccer. It's going to actually show you live action as it's happening, or if something big does happen, bang, it's showing you as soon as it can get there. It's unbelievable for fantasy. You sit down, it starts at 6 p.m. It runs right through until midnight. You probably get in between 7 and 9 games in the early kickoffs. Then it rolls into probably 3 to 5 games in the later kickoffs, and a lot of fantasy implications going on. It's very rare by the end of Red Zone if you don't know whether you've a good chance of winning or losing your fantasy. It's all on them Red Zone games. And look, it's us diehard NFL fans love just watching a one game and can sit through it easily 3-4 hours with the adverts. People say, how do you do it? It's because it's so good to watch and it's so explosive, and they need them breaks in the game because of what they're bringing you. But if someone's finding it difficult to sit through just a one game at a time type thing to feel, my advice to everyone at the minute, and how I've got people into it, is flick Red Zone on, 6 o'clock, get on the sofa, get the TV on, get watching it. And if that doesn't draw you in and hook you, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, and I'll just back up that as well. I say the same. Any beginners, it's the perfect way to start. All the action points. You've got your fantasy team you can look at. You've got your best bets from us that you can follow as well. And for me, it's got to be multi-screen. I've got the main TV with Red Zone, then I've got my Rams game watching as well. So it's perfect. Sunday nights in my house, I got me chicken wings and my sweet potato and my glass of chocolate milk, and I'm ready to go.
Love it. So from there, lads, we've done draft day. You've picked your team. I think another complicated one that people will need help with is the waiver wire system and picking up free agents. And I'll just cover quickly. Free agents are people who weren't picked up in the draft, but there's always at least, I'd say, a minimum of 8 to 9, 10 players, depending on the season, that end up becoming value players for your league. One of you take us through how that works, how the waiver wire system works. I think there's 2 different systems, isn't there? So have a pick, lads, and Bish takes through the technical side of the waivers.
Yeah, so the waivers is quite important. Well, I say very important. Obviously, you've got your draft, but the way this works, fantasy, it's a matchup league week to week. So you need to be winning your matchup week to week. And you also have one bye week every season. So there'll be some weeks where you'll have a player, you might have a running back in your team, and the next week he's on a bye week, so he's not playing. Then you've got your waiver wire to pick up players and rotate. So generally, in a normal standard league, it's, again, 1 to 12. The worst performing team in the league will pick first or get first choice on waivers, and vice versa. The NFL works in terms of fairness, so that's how they work. In other leagues, such as ourselves, you have something called a FAB, which is broken down into free agency acquisition budget. You might have $100 to start with. For instance, there's a player on waivers that you like, you bid. It's a silent auction for that player, and the highest bidder wins that player. And then that amount will be taken off your total. You keep that total for the year, and when you're out the money, obviously, you can still pick up players, but it'd have to be for zero rather than, obviously, money value. But I think waivers are huge in leagues, as I've just said, because when it gets to the nitty-gritty, you might have players injured, players on bye, and usually, like we found last year in the Punt, Puka Nacua and Kyron Williams, 2 top 5 scorers in their category, I believe, were actually picked up on waivers after week 1. There's plenty of good performers in that wire to benefit your team.
I like it. And then Tag, I think the other thing Bish dabbled on there that I've missed out would be the matchups, how that's different, how we face against each other. Do you want to just go into that a bit and the excitement of all that?
Yeah, that's one of the best things, obviously, about the fantasy is the head-to-head matchup. Sometimes it can be frustrating because, obviously, in your league, normally 12 teams, so there's 6 matches. Everyone plays someone every week. You normally play them twice throughout the season, or obviously because of the games, you might play them once, enough weeks. But you can be unlucky. You could be the second highest scorer in the league that week, and you still lose because you're just up against someone red that week. You could be the second lowest scorer and still, and that's what makes it really fair and spread across the board, because obviously it's random who you're playing. Bish did touch on it then. It's very important to look at the buys on your players when you're picking your team when their bye week is, because you only get to a point where you think, oh, I've picked players from all different teams here in my starting lineup and all my guns, but then they're all on the same bye the same week. You more or less know you're already losing one game before you've started. Try and spread that across the board a bit evenly as planned as well for when the buys are coming. Same with the waiver wire. You might see in 2-3 weeks' time, you've got your main running back on the bye week. There might be a running back there ready to get there who can just sit in your reserves until that comes. So you've always got to be planning ahead with fantasy when you get deep into it and you want to be serious with it. And with the wire, just don't sleep on it. It's mad. You see someone like Joe Flacco come out of retirement halfway through last year and he won some fantasies, just snatching them up off the waiver because they needed a QB. Don't be lazy with it. I think you mentioned it before, but it's normally like a Tuesday or a Wednesday. So just don't forget, make sure you're on it. Don't get to Friday, Saturday or whatever, check your team or before the Thursday night game and think, oh no, I've missed waivers, and all of a sudden you lose out on a Nacua or a Williams who's going to be a top draw player all year for you.
I like it. Yeah, the lads, I think that's most of the technical side covered. Have you got any questions that you'd like to ask the lads and be good for you to know?
Yeah, I can start. I was going to say, with injured players, what's your sort of thought process, both? Yeah, I'm happy to take a bit of a risk sometimes with the top injured players. You see them dropping down the draft a bit, and I think once you get your starting team locked in, it's worth a punt. Say if we use example, Nick Chubb is, I think you said, Bish, didn't you, is missing the first 4 weeks potentially of the season. If Nick Chubb is fully fit, the odds are as a first round pick. So what does that implicate to him now, just regarding where you'd see him going, and what's your thought process of injuries like that?
Do you want to take that on, Joe, first?
Yeah, I'll go in. Injuries, I now stay away. I've been burnt too many times. I think I had Michael Thomas, was it 2 years ago, where I picked him thinking, you know what, he's coming back. He's still on a strong team. He was a season or two before, obviously the best wide receiver in the league. And I thought, I picked one here. I'll take the risk. I've got a pretty safe team. I think I drafted, and he only ended up playing, I think, was it half a game or a game and a half that year, 2 years ago. So I got burnt. I've done it a couple of times, and I've learned I stay away now, Tag. I know that's a bit different from you, but I think my history just says I'm going to be careful. I'm picking them guarantees early. I've had quite a few seasons and leagues in different areas where I've ended up peaking a bit too late because of probably things like that, where I'm like, oh, come the later. I want a good start this season. Last year, I had 2 drafts. I had 2 leagues going on. I had a bad start in one of them, and it kills you. It's hard to get that momentum back. You don't lose interest, but you struggle to keep locked in. It's easy when you're winning. You're in. You're at it I want a good start. I want that guaranteed playoff spot as early as possible, so then I can start thinking I'm going to start winning mid the league, start making some moves. So I'm worry, even though they can't win mid the leagues if they come back, I'm staying away, and I want that early guaranteed wins, hopefully, for my team to get me in them playoffs.
Yeah. To piggyback on that, I'm a bit similar in terms of I'm all about drafting and trying to make a good start. I'm trying to secure those playoff spots, and then I'll start taking risks on the waivers. I can categorically say I won't be drafting Nick Chubb this year in the punt. But yeah, it's a funny one. Like players that are, I see it 2 different ways. Players that are potentially injured, or for instance, a good one is Christian McCaffrey. He's missing all camp with a calf strain. He's the best running back on the board, potentially best fantasy player. He's a tough one to stay away from. But if a player like Nick Chubb, for instance, or a player who's done his ACL and coming back, I'm generally staying away. What I've seen is that first year back, the production, if they're a good player, the production will still be there, but they tend to take a bit of time to settle in. And then it's that next year where they're back to normal, I'd say. If it's a player unsettled like CD Lamb at the minute with contract situations, I'm probably still drafting him where I would. Because it's not an injury. He might be away from the team, but he's still physically able and he's done it before. So that's probably where I differ. But yeah, I generally try and stay away from big injuries just because I want to hit the ground running. But then, for instance, if I get to week 8, I'm looking good, I've got 6 wins, somehow Nick Chubb's still on the waiver, then it might be a case of, okay, he's coming back in a couple of weeks. I might try and beat others and get ahead and stick him on my bench. So that's the sort of way I try and do it.
I like it. Bish, have you got any questions? I'll ask another one because it's I think we always have fun the last couple of years going into it's draft day. What are we liking, lads? I'm a boom or buster. I like my players with high ceilings, maybe low floors. You take them risks that they might have a great week, 1 week, then maybe go off the scale and don't have a good week. I like the excitement of having them 120, 130 scores and I'm dancing and I've won the league week and I'm top of the league. And I love that. I love the buzz of watching a player go off. And Tag, I know you're both a bit different. What do you like, lads? And explain it a bit.
Yeah, Joe, we've had good debates about this last year. I'm a high floor guy. I like to know I'm getting a solid 10, 15 points a week, rather than maybe 6 and then 20. So I'm generally across the board a high floor guy. I'd take that over the boom or bust. But I would say generally upside players are what you need in the playoffs to win you those championships. An example of that last year, I had Nick Mullins. Nick Mullins, he threw 4 interceptions, but he also had 4 touchdowns and 400 yards. So it's very boom or bust, but he took me all the way to Dynasty Final that I lost, unfortunately. But for the most part, I'm high ceiling, high floors.
Tag.
Yeah, very similar to Bish. I like to know what I'm getting. Don't get me wrong, if you can sit a boom or bust guy in your reserves who, when you see the matchup, think more chance of a bit of a boom this week, let's slot them in. But I like to know what I'm getting. I think, and that's maybe why me as a person leans towards sometimes the running backs more over the wide receivers, because with the wide receivers, they do tend to be a bit more boom and bust normally than the running backs. A running back, and no matter what happens in that game, they're going to get some touches, and at some point, they're going to have maybe a chance in the red zone to take an opportunity of getting at least that one touchdown. So I'm not like you, Joe. I'm not high and low. And obviously last year it was very low for you all year.
I can't speak because you beat me in the playoffs, so I'll keep quiet.
No, it can go one way or the other. We've seen that massively with some of the players. So that's what I was just thinking then when you said about the CMCs. You're pick number 2, Bish, aren't you, in our punt league? So say number 1 pick overall, Tyreek Hill goes. He's gone off the board. You're in pick 2. You've got CD Lamb, who wants paying, and you've got CMC, calf strain. Or you're taking that pick 2, or you're going to be a bit of a surprise and not take either of them at 2. What are you thinking if your man Hill's gone?
Another tip for those joining us who are new: don't worry about being laughed at. Take your guy.
Yeah.
And those of you who watch the wide receiver rankings after this show will know who my guy is at number 2 if Tyreek Hill is not there. That's all I'm saying on that one.
Watch our other shows, yeah, you'll find out who Bish will be drafting.
Yeah, but generally that's a tough debate, that one. Yeah, he is a calf injury. He has missed all pre-season. He has been pretty good last year. He did pick up a bit of injury. I think he missed 1 game, but they were resting players that game anyway.
I think the thing with CMC is you might miss some games, but when he does play, he's 9 times out of 10 he's winning you that matchup, because if he's playing a full game, he's getting you 20, 30 points. You've got an head start handicap before the game even starts.
We've also got obviously trade rumours of Brandon Ayuk leaving. If he leaves, does Debo see more? He got a lot of running back carries, Debo, last year. Do we see less of them and obviously more for CMC, or does CMC get more pass work? So yeah, I think you've got to be a brave man not to take CMC at 2 there.
One question I've got then, obviously we've spoke about all the big dogs, wide receivers, QBs. I'll bring it to you, Joe, first.
Yeah.
Kickers and defenses. Normally, high-end fantasy players who know what they're doing take kickers and defenses very late on, and do they matter as much as you think, or is it true that just leave them for the last 2 picks?
Yeah, I think you leave them because there's not as much differentiation. That I've made that word up. That's a mix around. There's not much difference between the scores of the points. So, for example, Cleveland, Detroit, the top range you're getting is an 8 or 9 points. The worst range is 1 or 2, but you're missing 6 points if you get it really wrong. 6, 7, 8 points, which obviously does make a difference when there's little margins between the teams. But in general, throughout a season, it doesn't make as much difference as having Tyreek and maybe picking like a Hollywood Brown and having a big difference in score. There'll be hundreds of points difference by that one, where the defense is not as much and kickers fairly similar. My draft strategy on defense is that I do like to draft a defense. I picked Pittsburgh last year. I like to get a good, strong defense off the board nice and early because I value a defense. It's quite tough to stream. I know Bish is a streamer. He'll probably touch on that in a minute, where I change every week. But I like to have a safe and not think about it. It's too much. for sometimes when you've got to pick up a wide receiver, got to pick up your QB for the week, they've got injuries. It's tough then to pick a defense as well. There's 2 or 3 defenses that most people go for if they're available. Browns, Pittsburgh, New England, these sort of teams. Everyone be going, unless you've got plenty of fab available, you might not be getting them. I like to pick my Pittsburgh, pick my Browns nice and early in the draft. I draft them early for defenses is that they just get drafted in general. So wait till the later rounds. And my advice would be pick up a defense and hopefully you don't have to think about it all year. But no.
Yeah, I'm very active on the wire with defenses. And generally what I tend to do is I don't reach, so I'll miss out on the sort of better defenses in the draft. But I just look at it as a matchup week to week and just play it by that ear. I work out who the worst team in the league is. Last year it was the Carolina Panthers. They were one of the worst teams on offense. And I just tried to pick up the team playing against them in the next week. If you've got some switched on people in your league who are trying to do the same thing, sometimes you've got to try and grab them 2 weeks early and just keep them on your bench. So generally that's what I do. So this year, obviously week 1, I'll have to draft a defense. I'll see who I get, see who's there. But after probably weeks 3 or 4, I'm trying to identify who are the 2-3 worst offensive teams in the league and picking the defense that they're playing the next week or, like I said, maybe 2 weeks in advance. And a lot of that is sometimes rookie quarterbacks. Sometimes they're a bit young and naive coming into the league. We saw it with Bryce Young last year. Didn't have the best offensive weapons or line around him, and teams preyed on him, and that's what I try to do. Kickers are a bit different. Kickers, I'd probably put more emphasis on drafting a good kicker, not early on, but if one falls to me, you've got your Tuckers. I'd say your Tyler Bass at the Buffalo Bills. Koo at Atlanta Falcons has made a bit of a name for himself. So if I can get one of them, I'm definitely trying to draft a good kicker. And then I'm pretty solid then. I only have to worry about bye weeks. And what I'm doing there is I'm trying to look at a team. I think there's 2 ways of going about it. Look at a team that scores a lot of points and you're getting maybe 3-4 touchdowns a game and you're getting those extra points with an odd field goal. Or what I try to do is I'm looking at a team, a mid-range team who are attacking but struggle to get the ball in the end zone and are relying on field goals from mid-range, 3 points for a field goal. If you can pick up a team that kicks 2 or 3 field goals a game, you know, you've got a good kicker there. So that's my strategy in terms of kicking and defense. A bit of a scarce position in the NFL is the tight end position. I'd say 1 or 2, but last year we saw the rise of a few rookies that sort of maybe opened that bracket a little bit. But what are your 2 guys' strategies on drafting tight ends? Are you reaching for a tight end, for one of the elite tight ends, or are you just happy with one of the sort of, because away from the top 4, you've got everyone else you can smother them with a blanket in terms of points. So are you reaching or are you just staying in the mid rounds for your tight end? Joe, I'll throw that to you first.
Tight ends, I think it depends. So I'm not drafting a tight end in the first 3 rounds. I know it was trendy last year to pick Kelsey was picked in the first round at points last year. I'm not picking tight ends too early. Come the middle of the rounds, round 4, 5, once I've picked my running backs and wide receivers, my big dogs, I'll look at tight ends. It completely depends who is available. I think I'll see what I feel come round 4, 5, 6. If there's none that are dropping to me, and by dropping to me, I may be one of the Sam Laportas, man at Baltimore, Andrews. Yeah, there's these couple of names that if they drop and no one's drafted them yet, I'll pick them up. You know, you get probably a very safe pick at tight end and you'll have a okay season. You don't have to think about it. Otherwise, if they don't drop, I'm not going to reach. I'm not going to be in round 4 and pick one that's quoted to be around round 5. I'm not going to panic at tight end. I'm happy streaming my tight ends and finding them in the waiver wires. There's always one that's hot on the touchdown rate in the last couple of weeks. It just swaps so much. And if you've not got that guaranteed, like you said, Bish, them guaranteed 3 or 4 where you're like, yeah, they'll do week on week, I'm not going to worry about it. I'm going to stream them. Because if you're not in them top 4, they all average very similar points anyway. So if you're not there, don't worry about it till later on. It would be my basic advice. But I think, yeah, we'll see what Tag says.
Yeah, with me, it goes on how the draft pans out. I feel like the drop off from the top tight ends, it's more drop off than the other position. For example, I was in a redraft last year. I was pick 6 overall, first round pick 6. Joe said people did it, I did it in one of my drafts. I took Kelsey because a lot of the first 5 picks, a lot of the big dogs had gone. Obviously, there's still some very good players there, but with Travis Kelsey, he is like a wide receiver, and he's such a drop off. I don't feel like over the course of last year I got the reward for that pick as much, because if playoff Kelsey turned up, then I definitely would have. But obviously, I don't. I definitely still. He still was one of the top scoring tight ends, but the reward didn't pay off. I'll be a bit more wary this year. Kelsey's another year older. There's a few more mouths to feed in Kansas City, and he's going to be on tour with Taylor Swift during the week at times, and is that same top dog turning up. I think it's how stuff pans out. I think this year, like you've mentioned, once Kelsey, Laporta, Andrews off the board, if they're gone early-ish than what you would have took, then you can think, Joe, what? Tight end can go in the back pocket. I'll wait till later on now. But for me, if I'm going into like round 3 or 4 and one of them top tight ends are still there, I feel like that's an edge I can get on my opponent straight away. So I'm happy to prioritise that over a wide receiver 2 or a running back 2, because they're maybe not as important in my eyes.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it, lads. Like you said, we've covered most things there. Anything left to do for Fantasy 101 for new viewers, or have we...
Yeah, the big one, like Bish touched on, I said, just go over the point system. Really look at it before you draft, because we touch on kickers there. Again, I'm in a league where, yeah, it's 3 points for a field goal, but it's an extra point if it's over 50 yards. So if you're going to pick a kicker, then with me straight away in that draft, I'm thinking, who's got a good leg on him, like a Koo or some Buckner at the Chiefs or a Tucker. I'd then not go for one of the older kickers who were, yeah, they might be more accurate, but I'm happy to get them extra 1 pointers here there from the longer field goals. And defensive touchdowns, they're vary. And like I said, with the QB, Bish, you've touched on that 4 and 6 points. So just have a real good look at the point system, and that should help you really, whether you feel like you're reaching on certain positions.
And I'd say be flexible. Get some practice in. You can get some mock drafts done, but it might not pan out how you think it pans out. Like I said, if someone reaches for their guy, it might upset the whole order of the draft. So be flexible. Have a couple of options at each position that you're looking to get. And the main thing, have some fun. The best thing about this for me is the banter, whether it's the group chat on the app, if you've got a WhatsApp group going, Sunday night, red zone. When I'm playing Joe, Joe's getting it. When Joe's beating me, I'm quiet. Yeah. That's what it's all about for me. Have some fun with your mates and hopefully bring home a championship.
Shall we go through then the first 12 picks in our draft? We've got the players up. We can talk about what would go through each person's mind in that pick. And then obviously when it's on you, who you take who is left, and if we're a bit on the side, have a bit of a vote. And then we'll go from there with the first 12 picks in our draft.
Yeah. Do you want to do that? I was going to say we could do a mock draft while we're all here, but I'm not sure how complicated that would be. But yeah, it's same thing, innit? Do the first round.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm up for that.
So we've got Sam, someone who was a fan who joined the fantasy with us last year, did a lot of talking and didn't back it up with results.
He made the playoffs, to be fair to him.
He did, but when it comes to big games, big players step up. Unfortunately, he didn't manage to do that. Maybe this year can be a bit better and back yourself a bit. Yeah, I'm happy to go last on this pick. What do you want to lead the way there, Joe? Where do you think Sam will be leading, and who would you be taking there?
So I've loaded up the draft board for everyone. This is what a draft board will look at. Especially this is on the Sleeper app. Bish showed me this one. I've used ESPN in the past, but this Sleeper app's unbelievable. So when it's draft day, this is what will load up, and you go into your picks. I think Sam's gonna play it safe at running back and take Christian McCaffrey, I would say.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. I'm trying to remember what Sam's sort of makeup of his team were last year, but I can't think of it. But yeah, it's surprising that they've got actually CD Lamb as ranked 1 overall here. But yeah, I think Christian McCaffrey would be Sam's pick.
I think as well with my mindset on fantasy is I tend to think if I don't pick him and they do what they do or they beat me in a final or in the playoffs, would that hurt me more? And I feel if I didn't take CMC and he stayed fit, just over this little daft thing like this car thing, I'd be gutted. So I think we can all say we'd all be taking CMC in that position probably, and that's so would be gone off the board there.
Yeah. That's on to me then. Pick number 2. So CMC's gone. I'm favouring wide receivers. I'm going to go Tyreek Hill. Just for you'll see what we've spoke about in our wide receiver show. But yeah, Tyreek Hill for me at 2.
Like it, then Bish, you can go again.
Oh yeah, Bailey Lowe at 3. So that leaves him with CD Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. Probably the top running backs are Bijan and Breece Hall. Knowing Bailey a little bit, he did like the receivers show. So I'm going to go with Jamar Chase for Bailey here.
Oh, so you're going Chase over Justin Jefferson and CD Lamb?
Yeah, I've eliminated Justin Jefferson due to the quarterback. He's lost Kirk Cousins. JJ McCaffrey's just been ruled out for the season with a meniscus repair. So he's got Sam Darnold there. CD Lamb's holding out. So yeah, I'm gonna go Jamar Chase just for the certainty.
Tag, you're on the draft board.
That my biggest. If Chase is gone, so he's gone. If he wasn't gone, then he would have been maybe.
Sorry, I've messed up your pick there, haven't I?
No, but I am a big Jamar Chase fan. If he was there, that'd be flip for me. But I am a running backs guy. I am a big fan of Bijan Robinson. I'm going to lay my cards on the table now. I'm happy to open out there. If Bijan, no matter who's gone, I think the only person who could be on the board and we not take Bijan is CMC. That's not happening. CMC is not going at getting down to 4. Bijan Robinson, the addition of Kirk Cousins in Atlanta, the fantasy prowess of Dalvin Cook under Cousins at the Vikings because the play action, the wide receiver core, it's going to open up the running lanes for Bijan. There was a lot of hammer last year about not giving Bijan enough ball. He's so quick, so good. I'm going to be all in on Bijan at pick 4.
Yeah, and then you've got to say probably Jamar Chase next. Would you say, Bish?
I've taken him at 3 for
Yeah. Oh God! So it'd be you're talking Breece and Paul.
You've still got CD Lamb there.
I think reigning champion there in the grounds is taking CD there. If you could take CD in a draft at 5 this year, you're doing well, I think.
Yeah, I'm next. I'm on the draft board. I hate giving my...
Right, we all know you're a Packers fan, but you get in bed with Sam Brown, so just admit it.
You know me well, Tag. You know me well. I'm definitely drafting. Now we know the draft position. Unless someone reaches before me, Amon-Ra St. Brown is my top wide receiver going into this year's league.
I might take him just for the banter. Just back myself and take him.
You can trade him later on.
Yeah, definitely. He's definitely my wide receiver. So then we're on to
Bruno. So I think he picked early last year and picked Cooper Kupp. That stung him. So I think his option here is Jefferson or let's have a look. Breece Hall. AJ Brown's there as well. I'm going to stick with wide receiver because that's what he picked first last year. So I'm going to stick with Justin Jefferson. Maybe he might have a doubt in his mind due to picking Cooper Kupp. Oh, Cooper Kupp was injured, not a quarterback issue. But yeah, I think Jefferson there. Pick that late. It's a decent pick.
Laney, you've got to go probably Breece Hall now, haven't you? If he's still available at this late in the draft, would you pick Breece? Is that a safe pick, lads?
Yeah, Laney's a big Baltimore Ravens fan, and in previous years that would have mean that Derrick Henry, he would have been took, but obviously Derrick Henry's a lot of mouths to feed. He's number 21 on this. I'd be shocked if you're reaching for Henry and risking that. Laney is still learning, but getting to grips with it, and I think he would take Brees, so I think you're right.
And then we've got Bish takes through the next one.
So this is interesting because we've just said there, we've got Laney, a Baltimore fan. And the next kidney, his team name is Lamar MVP. And he was absolutely filthy last year because someone picked Lamar before him. He had number 1 overall. I think he picked Jefferson, and then he thought he'd get Lamar on the snake, and someone got him. So I think here, if Laney doesn't pick Lamar, I think Isaac takes Lamar all day long here. Is it at number 9?
So around 1B.
I think he does, just because he missed out on him last year and he was absolutely filthy about it. Unless he thinks he can maybe get him in the second round, I'm pretty certain he'll protect Lamar.
37th on the list here, Bish, Lamar Jackson. That's the...
As I've said, sometimes your guys, just go get them. If you want to watch your guys play on a weekend, go get your guys. So it was MVP.
Yeah, and with Lamar, if you watch our QB show, you'll see there's been a bit of a mixed debate on the QB show regarding Lamar.
And again, this is one that for us, the sort of draft upside down, maybe not upside down, but it changes things a little bit. So you're on to James Green. Someone want to take that one?
If we've not picked, there's some massive names still on the list. If he's a safe player, you're probably picking Jonathan Taylor. If you've got a bit of excitement, you want a risk, that high ceiling, probably lower floor, depending on the QB, whether Rodgers stays fit, you'd pick Garrett Wilson. I think they're the 2 easy picks to pick there, lads, with the players available.
Yeah, if I'm in that position, and with Taylor's injury, and he didn't really do what he should have done last year after the year before, automatically, if I'm in that pick, I'm actually putting Jahmyr Gibbs over Taylor. I love Jahmyr Gibbs at Lions. So explosive, brilliant attack. Obviously, he's ranked a couple down. And arguably Saquon Barkley, what he might be able to do at the Eagles, he's very interesting at that pick. And you tend to get 2 pretty good quality players, but
there's still AJ Brown out there as well.
Yeah, if you watch the wide receiver show, you know my opinion on AJ Brown. So I'm not going for him. But yeah, if it's me, I'm going Jahmyr Gibbs there. I'm taking him.
So Bass, like you said, Bish, you're probably picking AJ Brown if he's available. If he wants a wide receiver, and like you said, Jahmyr Gibbs, or you've got Saquon there, 2 pretty safe depending on who goes next, I believe.
Yeah, Lachlan Walmsley. So he's a complete newbie to NFL. He picked up our show the back end of last year. Been in a little bit of chat with him to get him in the league. So this would be interesting. We've said Barkley's gone, haven't we?
I think just quickly, this is a big thing about fantasy as well, and the fact of just because you're not in the first 5-10 picks, look at the quality still on that board, and you've got a chance to secure and go bang. If I'm in Worm's position here, I'm pick 12, 13 snake, I'm setting the cat amongst the pigeons, and I'm going to take the same position, double whammy, just to drain some of the teams after me. So, for instance, if they did take AJ Brown, I'd be going bang, bang, Jahmyr Gibbs and Jonathan Taylor, or bang, Barkley, Jahmyr Gibbs. And all of a sudden, your 2 starting running backs, Jahmyr Gibbs and Saquon Barkley, I think straight away, you've got a good bit of edge about you there.
Yeah, I think at 12 or 13, he definitely takes Jonathan Taylor. And then, like you said, does he double up or does he go with a wide receiver? So I think we'd put Jonathan Taylor in at 12 there.
If you're there, Bish, and Jonathan Taylor goes 12, I know we're not doing the second round, but you're in on him, and there's an ex-wide receiver down there in the court, Marvin Harrison Jr. Where do you see Marvin Harrison Jr. going? Would you take him in round 2?
My pick, sorry, are we talking for my pick?
No, just saying if you was in pick 12 after this now, and you're Walmsley, you've just took your running back, and you like your wide receivers. Obviously, next on the list is Nakua, but then after that is Marvin Harrison Jr. Would you be staying loyal to Nakua, or you are really on Marvin Harrison, aren't you? Are you taking the?
No, I'm not taking Marvin Harrison. That a rookie. Although I think he will do well, I think taking him second round, 13th pick, I think that's asking a bit too much. To be honest, I'm looking at a sneaky pick here. I can't actually see him on the thing. I'm looking at Cooper Cup here. In terms of, I don't think Nakua, great first year, but Cooper Cup will be back.
He's right down there.
He is the number one. I think that's an absolute.
First,
to be honest, I think you might even get away with leaving him another round there. If like I said, this is what I mean. If people just strictly go by what on Sleeper, Cooper Cup is the 41st ranked wide receiver. So you're going to miss him in the first 3 rounds if you're not looking further down. So being one of my guys, Cooper Cup, I think that's a potential steal. If you get him at that draft value, they've got him at 41st pick. I think that's a steal on Cooper Cup there. But I wouldn't be taking Puka Nacua this high. He's got an injury in pre-season, so I don't do that with injured players. I probably won't be taking Marvin Harrison. Devontae Adams? Wow. I'm not sure.
There we go, lads. There's a taste of what it's to come. Watch this if you need any advice, any basics. Thank you for doing the Fantasy 101 show, lads. Please subscribe. Let's have a great year. Follow us all the way through. The coverage is just going to get better and better throughout the year. We've now got mics. We've now getting everything set up. We've got a bit of a studio we're working on in process. Yeah, follow us throughout the year, lads. And see you for the next show.